Alhamdulillahi wa kafa wa salatu wa salamu ala ibadihi alladhina istafa khususan ala afdalihim wa khatimin nabiyyin Muhammadin al-Amin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'd. Brother Chairman, the President and officers of Permin, our learned Imam and Hafiz Nazir Ali, who has travelled all the way from Chennai to be with us here today, brothers and sisters. Wassalamu'alaikum, Warohmatullahi, Wabarokaatuh. My Tamil is not too good, so you will forgive me if I speak in English. This is a historic occasion where the dua is mustajab. We made a dua when we wrote this book, asking Allah to send those who will translate it into all languages spoken by Muslims. And today Allah has answered that dua in a very important language, Tamil language. I want to share with you a few things connected with the background of the book that very few people know about. A very great scholar of Islam, Pakistan, who died maybe about 20 years ago. His name was Dr. Karim Siddiqui, rahimahullah, who established the Muslim Institute for Research and Planning in London. And he loved me as a younger brother. I was doing my PhD in Geneva in Switzerland. He was in London. I used to travel back and forth to London. He had very high esteem for my teacher, Maulana Fadl Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah. And it was in 1976, I remember April 1976, when he organized an Islamic conference in London. And I traveled from Pakistan to attend that conference in London. And between sessions in the conference, he and I sat down together to have a cup of tea. And while discussing, we came to the conclusion that the city of Jerusalem is the key to understanding what lies ahead in history. He said to me, Imran, you have been trained. You have been trained for this job. And you must write this book. And that was 1976, Jerusalem in the Quran. For 20 years thereafter, still in the world of thought, until in 1996, I am in New York, and I have a high profile as a scholar of Islam in New York. And Dr. Daniel Pipes, who studied at the Temple University in Philadelphia under Professor Ismail Faruqi, who got his PhD in Islamic Studies, and considered himself to be a scholar and could teach us Muslims a couple of things. So Daniel Pipes wrote an essay which he published in the Los Angeles Times. Muslims have no claim to Jerusalem because Jerusalem is not even mentioned once in the Quran. So I decided I must respond to Daniel Pipes. And the book must be entitled Jerusalem in the Quran. Daniel Pipes, you can take that and put it in your pipe and smoke it. So 1996, 97, 98, I was working on the book. And you had to use a methodology to bring the verses of the Quran together to be able to penetrate the subject. And it was my good fortune that I was a student of a teacher who gave precisely that methodology. Maulana Fadlur Rahman Ansari rahimahullah. But in addition to methodology for studying the Quran, you could not understand the Quran unless you also focus attention on events which are unfolding in the world, in the political sphere. Was it by accident that Britain became a ruling state in the world? And the world experienced what they called Pax Britannica. Was it by accident that the United States then put Britain in its place and took over? And the world then experienced the United States as a ruling state in the world. And so Pax Americana replaced Pax Britannica. Is this going to continue forever? The student had to have insight, basira, to be able to apply what was in the Quran and what was in the Hadith to events which are unfolding in the world. And by Allah's kindness and grace, the cover of this book shows the product of that effort. That there are 3 circles. It's a Malay artist who did this. And the 3 circles represent the 3 periods or the 3 stages of the life of Dajjal. That the Prophet said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, that when Dajjal is released on earth, he will live for 40 days. Yawmun kasana, a day which would be like a week, a year. Yawmun kashahr, a day which would be like a month. Yawmun kajum'ah, a day which will be like a week. وَسَائِرُ أَيَّامِهِ كَأَيَّامِكُمْ, and all his days, meaning all the rest of his days, like your days. That's the hadith. 1400 years had passed. No one was able to understand and interpret until the right moment came, until events had unfolded in the world, until proper methodology was used to apply to the Quran and to the Hadith. And we came to the conclusion that when Dajjal was in the first stage of a day which is like a year, Britain emerged as the ruling state in the world. That is the explanation of Pax Britannica. If you have another explanation, we would love to hear it. This is ours. And then, when the United States took over from Britain and Pax Americana replaced Pax Britannica, we said, this is Dajjal in a day which is like a month, second stage. And as a consequence, we were able to anticipate that the United States will not remain flying high forever. That the United States is going to fall. And that a new ruling state will replace the United States. This is 20 years ago. This analysis was done 20 years ago, when no one could possibly think that the United States would be in the state where it is today, with the US dollar in a hospital in Manhattan in ICU. We have the expert on monetary economics right here. And a new monetary system around the corner to replace the existing bogus and fraudulent monetary system, petrodollar system. It is because, we said, the child has to move to a day which is like a week. We are able to anticipate that the movement from one day to another always came with great wars. And therefore, the succession from the United States to the successor state must witness great wars. It took us some time, however, to recognize that that great war, which is to come, which will witness the fall of the United States, would be the Malhama, would be what the Christians call Armageddon. It is only over the last 2 years that our knowledge and understanding of Ilmu Akhir Zaman has allowed us to recognize another part of the subject. Gog and Magog, which is the companion volume to this book, which you're going to have to translate into Tamil, an Islamic view of Gog and Magog in the modern world. We have it at the back in English this time. And that Russia was not Magog. I made a mistake. No, Russia is not Magog. Gog and Magog are the Judeo-Christian Zionist alliance, which have NATO as their military arm. That's Gog and Magog. And that Russia is room of the Quran. غُلِبَتِ الرُّوم, says Allah in the Quran. And Allah speaks in the Quran of Rome being victorious twice. لِلَّهِ الْأَمْرُ مِنْ قَبْلُ وَمِنْ بَعْدُ. Decision making concerning victory and defeat is with Allah. And Rome will therefore be victorious on the previous occasion, which happened during the lifetime of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And Rome will also be victorious min ba'd, in a subsequent occasion, which will have to be Akhirul Zaman. And so when the big war comes, which is around the corner now, which is why they're circling Russia, which is why they attack Russia in Crimea and attack Russia in Ukraine, because they are hungry for that big war. But when the big war comes, we have some news for you, Washington, and we have some news for you, London, and we have some news for you, Paris, and we have some news for you, Jerusalem, because this is Islamic eschatology speaking. Like no other eschatology can speak. Ilmu Akhiru Zaman. And that is that Russia will survive. Russia will survive the Malhama. And after the Malhama, Russia will participate in an alliance with Muslims to liberate which city? Which city? Which city? Which city? Okay, no tea for you. The hadith of the Prophet, you must know the timeline. You must know the timeline of Akhirul Zaman. He said that you will have the Khurujul Malhama, and then after that the next event is Fathul Constantinople. That after the Malhama or the Great War, the next event will be the conquest of Constantinople. Who is speaking? Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. What is the name that he used for the city? Constantinople. If he used that name for the city, would that not be the Sunnah? Yes. So it is the Sunnah to refer to the city as Constantinople. So Mustafa Kamal, how can you legally prohibit the use of the name Constantinople? If you go to Turkey now and you use the name Constantinople, they'll arrest you. Yeah, Mustafa Kamal, the agent of Dajjal. So that the Muslim world will forget the prophecy of Nabi Muhammad ﷺ. That's why they don't want you to use the name Constantinople. So after the Malhama, the next event which is to take place is the conquest of Constantinople. Now you'll understand. We were brainwashed for hundreds of years to believe that nonsense, that Sultan Muhammad Fateh in 1453, he conquered Constantinople, and that was a fulfillment of the prophecy of Nabi Muhammad ﷺ. That's false. That should be taken and thrown into a garbage bin. It's not scholarship, it's schoolboy stuff. The conquest of Constantinople is still to come. And it will come on the basis of an alliance of Muslims with Rome. This is how important is this subject of ilmu akhirul zaman. And by Allah's kindness and grace, and because of the provocation I got from Daniel Pipes, and the encouragement I got from Dr. Karim Siddiqui, and the methodology I got from my teacher Maulana Fazlur Rahman Ansari, Rahimahullah, Allah blessed me in 2001 to finish writing this book. It was published in 2002 here in Malaysia. All my books published here in Malaysia. And from the time it was published to this day, 12 years later, it has always remained a bestseller. I think it has now been translated into about 14 or 15 different languages. And the last one that they're working on now is Russian. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may bless those in this ummah who will study the subject, like the Imam Hafiz Nazir, who is there. He's a thinker. So that tomorrow we'll have scholars of Islam who will be able to read and understand what the Quran and the Hadith have to say on ilmu akhirul zaman. The most important surah of the Quran for the study of ilmu akhirul zaman is Surah Al-Kahf. Far and away. It is Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran which introduces the subject of Gog and Magog, Ya'juj and Ma'juj. It is Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran which introduces us to Dajjal without mentioning the name of Dajjal, in the story of the young man and the cave. I want to take a few minutes to show the link. It's not just that Nabi Muhammad ﷺ said, recite the first 10 ayat of Surah Al-Kahf over Dajjal and he won't be able to harm you. It's not just that Nabi Muhammad ﷺ said, recite Surah Al-Kahf on the day of Jum'ah and you'll get nur from the samawat to the earth, and that nur will stay with you until the next Jum'ah. The link with Dajjal, clear. Dajjal sees with the left eye. He's blind in the right eye. It looks like a bulging grape. The left eye symbolizing external sight. The blind right eye symbolizing internal blindness. This is epistemology, the branch of knowledge which studies knowledge. Those who follow Dajjal will be a people who, like Dajjal, would be internally blind. PhD from MIT. Oh yes. But you have eyes and yet cannot see. You have ears and yet cannot hear. You have hearts and yet cannot understand. Ulaika kal-an'am, they're just like cattle, said Allah. And so Surah Al-Kahf introduces us to Dajjal in the story of the young man in the cave. Dajjal is released in the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ. Where is the evidence? How could Imran say such a thing? Alright, here's the evidence. Hadith of Tamim Dari. And Dajjal is on an island. An island has water all around it. Does Medina have water all around it? Is Medina an island? How come you're so quiet? No. Dajjal is on an island and he's in chains. Okay? Shortly after that, Nabi Muhammad ﷺ suspects a Jewish boy in Medina to be Dajjal. And he takes Umar radiallahu ta'ala with him. And they go and meet the boy, Ibn Sayyad. If it is possible for Dajjal to be in Medina, would it be correct to conclude that he is no longer on the island? Would it be correct to conclude that he has now been released? And that's the only way he could possibly be in Medina? I think this is elementary common sense. Only 5 ringgits worth of intelligence you need to conclude that as a consequence of this event, we are told Dajjal is now released. Was Ibn Sayyad Dajjal? No, he died. Ibn Sayyad died long ago. But Dajjal can only be killed by whom? By Nabi Isa alayhi salam. So he could not have been Dajjal. So Dajjal is released. He's here on earth. But we can't see him because he's not in our world of space and time. And so Surah Al-Kahf gives us the story of the young man. And they slept in the cave for how long? 300 years. At the end of 300 years, Allah woke them up. And they asked, how long have we been here? And one of them said, a day or a part of a day. That's strange to me. Because if you were sleeping for 300 years, then when you wake up, your fingernails will be as long as from Shah Alam to KLCC. That's biological time. But they had not aged. They were still the same age. So they did not spend the 300 years in biological time. Well then where were they? They had to be in the Samawat. In the Samawat, women don't need cosmetics. You remain forever young. So they were not here on earth. They were in the Samawat. Agreed? Because they were not in biological time. No. Wrong. Wrong. In the morning the sun will come up from this side. And in the evening the sun will come from this side. And the bodies will be rolling. وَنُقَلِّبُهُمْ ذَاتَ الْيَمِينِ وَذَاتَ الشِّمَالِ. So they were very much in this world. and they were rolling from left to right, attracted to sunshine. Well, then we have a paradox. They were here in this world of space and time, and they were also simultaneously in the samawat. This is what analysis of the Quran leads you to, indicating constant movement back and forth, constant movement back and forth between this world of space and time and the samawat, which is the key to the understanding of Dajjal. So we started our work on Surah Al-Kahf, and the first book to come out was Surah Al-Kahf at the modern age. One way of explaining the Quran is called tafsir, explanation. But for ilm wa akhir al-zaman, you need something else. You need ta'weel, or interpretation. And that is what that book offers. Surah Al-Kahf and the modern age. Then we also offer the tafsir of Surah Al-Kahf. And now there's one more book left to be written to complete the quartet. And that is Dajjal. Dajjal, the false Messiah. But you need a lot of time to write a book on Dajjal, and a lot of thought to go into that book. Otherwise, at the end of it, you look like a fool. So I'm taking my time with a book on Dajjal. I want to end now by not only urging you to read on the subject of ilmu akhir al-zaman, so that you may be able to remain faithful to the Quran and not betray the Quran, and that the Quran may be able to explain to you the ahadith, so that the Quran and hadith will explain to you the reality of the world today. May Allah bless Hafiz Ustaz Nazir Ali, who took up the task of translation with great courage. I don't know how much headache he got in translating, and may Allah bless him. May Allah bless my dear student Shirazuddin for the effort that he made also to get this published, and also Permin for what they have done, that this book may be today launched. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين.
Are there worlds of space and time other than our material universe? Are there parallel universes? Yes, says Islam. The Quran has on several occasions mentioned that there are 7 of them. 7 parallel universes which have different space and different time from ours. So Dajjal, or the Antichrist, would be released. He would be on earth, but not in our world of space and time. How can you be on earth and not be in our world of space and time? Well, we believe that there are angels here on earth. We are told that there are 2 angels on our shoulders, and they're constantly recording what we do. But can we see them? No, they are here on earth, but they're not in our world of space and time, and so we cannot see them. Similarly, the Antichrist is here, but he's not in our world of space and time, so we can't see him. When I wrote my book, Jerusalem in the Quran, I realized that stage 1 of Dajjal's mission, which was the longest one, a day like a year, that in stage 1, he was the one responsible for Britain emerging as a ruling state. Dajjal gave to the world Pax Britannica. Pax Britannica was stage one on the road to Jerusalem. Are you listening to me, Morris?
It's turned out that
Pax Britannica is the initial stage of the road to Jerusalem. And then came Pax Americana, now a day which is like a month. Stage two on the road to Jerusalem. And when Pax Americana ends, which is around the corner, then a third ruling state has to emerge, and my opinion is going to be Israel. And when a day like a week or Pax Judaica comes to an end, it is at that time that Dajjal will appear in human form as a Jew and claim to be the Messiah from Jerusalem.
That's it. Well, I thank you for that. What I'd like to grasp from you is for, say, people that don't know about Islam, is that there is this mystical side to it. I mean, because Islam always seems to be very down to earth, you don't believe in superstition and no numerology, and that's my interpretation.
Yes, there is a mystical side to Islam that is of critical importance in the end time, in eschatology. The Antichrist sees with one eye. Morris sees with two. But the Antichrist sees with one. He sees with his left eye, said the Prophet. He's blind in the right eye. He's blind in the right eye. It looks like a bulging grape. But your Lord is not one-eyed, said our Prophet. We interpret this to mean that the Antichrist has external vision and he's internally blind. The left eye symbolizing an epistemology in which knowledge comes only from external observation and experimentation, the scientific method. And the blind right eye symbolizing internal blindness. The mystical part of Islam is that Islam says that the heart can see. But in order for the heart to see, you must not be worshipping a US dollar. You must be worshipping the one God. In order for the heart to see, you must be righteous in your conduct. You must be honest and trustworthy. When you give your word, you must keep your word. You must not oppress people like that arrogant United States of America and Britain and France and the Zionist world. Constantly oppressing. You must speak the truth. They tell monstrous lies. They are people with PhDs in telling lies. When you are righteous in conduct and you have faith, then the Lord God can put light into your heart. And when you see, you now see with internal sight. It is only with internal sight, when combined with external sight, that you can penetrate the reality of the world today. That is the mystical part of Islam. Sufism or Tasawwuf. Sufism is meant to teach. Sufism is meant to teach this spiritual path of Islam. Our problem today is that the Sufis are just as blind as the Salafis. The Sufis cannot recognize, as the Salafis cannot recognize, that we are now on the brink of Armageddon, on the brink of the Malhama. They cannot recognize that Gog and Magog are the Judeo-Christian Zionist alliance. They cannot recognize that Russia is Rome of the Quran. They cannot recognize that at the end of the Malhama or the Armageddon, Russia will survive. They will perish, but Russia will survive. And Russia will then combine with Islam to conquer Constantinople. Yeah. So the Sufis seem to be just as blind as the Salafi.
In Europe and America, the industrial world. People have become automated in their work and their thinking. They seem to lack imagination. And I come to Asia, to Malaysia, and it's an Islamic country, but it seems very similar. It's following a similar path. There's not an alternative ideology or behavior about the world. Indeed, Malaysia is almost covered in palm oil plantations. I mean, what hope is there for an alternative conduct in this world?
You have to take an invitation from me to come and visit my Muslim village. And in the Muslim village you'll see a different face of Islam. We won't be using paper money and plastic and electronic money. We'll be using the money which is in the Quran and which all the prophets of God use. The gold coin and the silver coin, which Israel will be using tomorrow.
And do you feel this is really the core issue, the basic thing that needs to be altered for society to work better?
This is one example. One. God did not create a man to have only one woman in his life. Monogamy was brought to us by Dajjal. That honest men, virtuous men, and good men, and righteous men are men who have only one wife. You can have as many monikers as you want down the side, but you must have only one wife. Then you're a good man. And to have more than one wife, you're rotten. That's what Dajjal has done in brainwashing us. But no. In the Quran, Allah permits us to have more than one wife. There are worlds inside of a man, worlds, which cannot be accessed other than by the touch of a woman. And if you do not have a woman in your life, like David and Solomon, Allah's blessings be upon them, they had many wives, all the prophets of God. And it is in the interaction with many women as wives that these men were able to expand and expand and expand and blossom. These, of course, are the prophets of God, but there are others as well who show versatility, compared to which we today are just little schoolboys. Yeah, schoolboys. And so when you come to the Muslim village, you won't find Dajjal's monogamy. No. Every woman has the right to a husband. Every man doesn't have the right to a wife. Every man has the duty to marry. The world is filled today with women who cannot find husbands. Among the reasons for that is because Morris wouldn't get married. Don't look at me like that. The world today is filled with women who do not have husbands, consigned and to remain living their lives without any husband. Not in Islam. No. Not in Islam. Every single woman who comes to our Muslim village and says she wants a husband, somebody has to offer to marry her, including Jamal here.
I heard an introduction this morning, just prior to you giving a speech, and it went through your past, your biography, all the different things you've done. What I'd like you to tell us, which we were not told about this morning, are moments that changed your life, changed your awareness, changed your direction. What moments can you tell us about?
There are people who dedicate their lives to the mission of truth, who pursue knowledge, who pursue the spiritual path, who become not only teachers but guides. They are the shepherds of mankind. These are the prince of all men. The rest are lesser people. The prince of all men. one such man traveled from Pakistan in 1960 when I was 18 years of age. I was already of a spiritual bent of mine. I was already someone who was showing capacity for perception, understanding, questioning my surroundings. But I didn't have a guide. I didn't have a shining light. No. My father had died when I was 15, but he gave to me the love for religion. And when I was 18, this man came to Trinidad. And after listening to him, my life was changed. And this is why I, at the age of 72, while travel is difficult for me, I much rather be at home. Yet I travel. Perchance that by traveling, a little 16-year-old out there, his heart will be touched. His life will be changed. And when I'm in my grave, he's on the road climbing up the mountain. So this was a turning point in my life. When I met with Maulana Dr. Muhammad Fadlur Rahman Ansari. Another major turning point was when I was introduced to philosophy at university. This was not my choice. I would have preferred mathematics. But Dr. Ansari said, no, philosophy. And so I majored in philosophy. And when I went into the philosophy classroom, it was like a fish in water. My natural elements. Philosophy and religion are so close to each other. Another major turning point was when I graduated and went back to Trinidad in 1971, and I had to look for a job. I didn't want to become an imam in a masjid, and he who pays the piper calls the tune. So I applied for a job in the foreign ministry. And they interviewed me and they said, yes, we like to have you in the foreign ministry, but we want to send you back to university to do international relations. When I got into the classroom of international politics and international economics and international monetary economics and the history of international relations, again it was like a fish in water. I was in my natural elements, yeah. It was because of this combination of religion and philosophy and international affairs that I was able to now develop this branch of knowledge of Islamic eschatology, which no other scholar has done so far.
Islamic scholar Imran Hosein was born in the Caribbean island of Trinidad in 1942. His ancestors migrated to the Caribbean from India about 200 years ago. He studied Islam, philosophy and international relations at several universities and institutions of higher education, including Al-Azhar University in Cairo, Egypt, the Institute of International Relations of the University of West Indies in Trinidad, the University of Karachi in Pakistan, the Al-Imia Institute of Islamic Studies in Karachi, Pakistan, and the Graduate Institute of International Studies in Geneva, Switzerland. In his professional career, he worked for several years as a Foreign Service Officer in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the government of Trinidad and Tobago, but gave up his job in 1985 to devote his life to the mission of Islam. On his return to Pakistan, he was appointed in 1986 as principal of the Al-Imia Institute, from which he had himself graduated as a student 14 years earlier. The three of his teachers were still members of the teaching staff. The institute had been established by Maulana Dr. Fadlur Rahman Ansari, and non-sectarian, but after his death it had become sectarian. Imam Imran Hosein tried but failed to restore the institute to its non-sectarian origin, and then sadly migrated to USA in 1989. He lived in New York 10 years, during which time he held the post of Director of Islamic Studies for the Joint Committee of Muslims Organizations of Greater New York. He lectured on Islam at several American and Canadian universities, colleges, churches, synagogues, prisons, community halls, etc. He also participated in beneficial other interreligious dialogue with Jewish rabbis and Christian priests and scholars. He was for some time the Imam at Masjid Darul Quran in Long Island, New York. He also conducted the Friday Salat al-Jum'ah and delivered the khutbah at the headquarters of the United Nations organizations in Manhattan once every month for 10 years continuously. He has traveled continuously around the world on Islamic lecture tours since his graduation from Alimia in 1971 at the age of 29. Even now at the age of 72, inshallah, he is still traveling to new places such as Iran, Russia, Brazil, and Mauritius. He has written about 24 books on Islam which have invariably been received with respect by the reading public. Most of his recent works have been devoted to Islamic eschatology, a branch of knowledge which he is now pioneering. Among them are his bestseller Jerusalem in the Quran, which is being sold outside, an Islamic view of the fate of Jerusalem, and an Islamic view of Gog and Magog in the modern world.
Everywhere the world's kind of disintegrating on a moral level. Let's just keep it simple, on a crime basis. Traveling, going down streets is suddenly more precarious, more dangerous than ever before. And there's no solution in sight anywhere. Is it a valid comment for me to say that our societies are collapsing, it's disintegrating?
That is a very valid conclusion, that we're living in a collapsing world. Politicians will never accept that. No, they want to win elections. But the major signs of collapse are not the violence of the society. Major signs of collapse are those things which cause the heavens to send bolts against you and destroy you. The anger of the heavens is so great that they send angels with huge mountains to take Sodom and Gomorrah and sink them down. And so when you see a society turning towards legalizing the marriage of a man with another man, you know that the rat has escaped and is out, that the apple is rotten inside, even if it's shining and bright outside. And when you see a society being embraced with legalized homosexuality, you know that destruction is around the corner. If you continue to sit amongst them, stay on board that boat, that ship, that when it is destroyed, you will be destroyed with it. And that is why we say this is a time to withdraw from the cities, because the cities are a lost cause. And we head for the remote countryside. There are many Americans who will agree with me, many French who will agree with me, many Germans will agree with me in Europe, because they're heading for the countryside, out of the cities, and building communities in the remote countryside where they can live a life of some purity and integrity.
It seems inevitable to me that Russian troops are going to move into eastern Ukraine. They're going to be provoked to do that. I also wonder if Israel will then attack Syria at the same time. Am I making a reasonable interpretation of events?
This is no man's land really for political analysis, because no one really knows which scenario is going to evolve. What is certain now is that Russia is operating on the basis of a very mature and wise policy. They're not jumping. No, they're taking their time. And when they act swiftly and firmly. They did so in Georgia in 2008 and gave the Zionist world a slap on its face that is still stinging to this day. They acted with brilliant diplomacy in Crimea and gave to the Zionists the most significant defeat they have ever experienced since the Zionist movement was created. They wouldn't like to hear these words from me, but this is Islamic eschatology speaking. And so Russia is on the road. So Russia is on the road, I believe, to teaching them a good lesson in Ukraine. But I think Russia is biding its time for the government in Ukraine to kill more and kill more and kill more and kill more, using the armed forces against their own citizens. When they have done enough, and Russia has warned them sufficiently, and you now have before the very eyes of the world, you have justification, moral justification for responding with force. It is then I will believe that Russia will show them an iron fist, and Russia will respond with such power and force and ferocity, and Russia will have support from the heavens above.
You know, it seems to me that so much of our news is fabricated, false, put out to persuade public opinion, as if public opinion matters. And that is my question to you. It also seems that they act with unanimity, that they just don't care what the public believe. And why do they even bother to lie to us? Why do they even bother to be concerned about public opinion when they obviously can do whatever they want anyway?
It is a part of Dajjal's strategy to seek to brainwash you. Our Prophet said so, that he comes with a river and a fire. But his fire is a river and his river is the cool waters. His river is a fire and his fire is a river. So he has a PhD in deception. He seeks to brainwash you, to corrupt your capacity for proper thinking, so that he can get you on board his trade, supporting him, which is what happened when the General Assembly had to vote on Crimea. 50-something of them voted against Russia, supporting. All right? So they are very concerned about public opinion. That's why they take control of television, of newspapers, of the radio, the news media. Okay? They buy journalists. They pay journalists and so on. But all that they did, and they're planning for Crimea, was for the last 100 years. And at the end of the day, guess what happened? They planned their plan and Allah planned His plans. And our modern day Zulkarnain gave them a beating of their life in Crimea. That's what's going to unfold now in Ukraine. Yeah.